We're live.
Okay. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to a special live episode of the ToGetThere podcast. My name's Chris from Anaheim, California, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Noe.
Hey there, everyone! It's finally really nice to finally be able to say like we're live. We're live here from. Well, I'm from Mexico, so here I am. Hello to everyone. But Chris, tell them like why are we live right now?
Yeah, well, we were invited by this international organization called the United World Project to be host of this online event launching the United World Week, an annual celebration of peace and unity between different cultures following a different theme each year. So, with this year's theme being In Time for Peace, along with our show's message of reaching a better and united world, we decided to accept this invitation and join you guys live on the internet. So, Noe, I gotta ask, how is this episode going to work?
On this episode, we will have some type of panel online with four different representatives of different projects who they all work together. Well, in their places, in their regions, for social justice and human rights, which are the topics of this year's United World Week's theme that Chris just mentioned. So that dynamic today is pretty cool because if you are connecting with us through Zoom, you will be able to participate with us and the panelists like on different polls or like answering questions on the chat box that we will be asking during the panel. Um, yeah, so if you're on YouTube right now, you can just leave a comment and say what's up.
Yeah. And also, if you guys are on Zoom, we do have translations available in Spanish and Portuguese. So there's a little icon that says interpretation, click Spanish and Portuguese. And to listen in Arabic, click the French option. And then to listen in Italian, click the German options. Don't ask us why it's like that. It just happened. But anyways, let's meet the panel.
So for today, we will have all of these wonderful people who will share their stories on how they're making positive and peaceful impacts in their communities. So first, we will present you Elizabeth Wallen. Like, is it okay if we just call you Liz?
Yes, no problem.
Awesome. Liz is from the US and she's founder and director of Project Leah, which is a nonprofit organization which employs women who recently got out of prison to reincorporate them back into society to make them feel confident again. So, thank you for being here, Liz.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So, next, we have our good friends coming in live from the Philippines. Paulo Pangan, is that correct? Pangan, your last name?
Yeah, you can just call me Paulo.
Paulo.
Hi.
Hello. We also have Joy Flores, who
Hello.
work for the Noche Buena project, which in Spanish it's literally translated to the Good Night Project, but Noche Buena also means Christmas Eve, which I imagine this is where it's going, right?
Yeah, it's we're gonna be able to explain it later, I guess. But hi, I'm from Manila, Philippines. But a part of it is also Joy, who is in California right now.
Hey everyone.
Yes. So he's actually not too far from where I live, we live in the same county. So that's cool. We are also joined with Rahul Mishra from India, who has been organizing food drives for immigrants in Mumbai who have nowhere to go during this current COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, we are joined by a group of, what's up, Rahul?
No, go ahead. Hi, everyone.
All right, my bad. But okay, so moving on. And finally, we are joined by a group of young men and women from different parts of the world who have been spending a year together in Italy at a formation school for the youth of the Focolare. Say what's up, guys.
Hi.
Hello, ciao.
Hi.
So they have been making thousands of masks a day in response to this global pandemic, and then they distribute them around the world, around Europe, with different vendors from different countries. So welcome, guys.
Yeah, so once again, welcome to you all. Are really, really thankful for you to be here. And as we have right now on screen, we have one of the polls that will be popping in during the conversation, which you can answer if you want. For example, this one, I think his hair is a bit long, so definitely yes.
Shout out to the 3 people that said no. But anyways, let's go on. No way. Let's get it started, right?
Yeah, so this is how this is going to work. We will be throwing questions at each of you individually regarding each of your projects and how you're doing amazing things to help others. Um, as we know, in the world, there's lots of people around us who are suffering, who are oppressed, or going through many problems personally. But this question is for our friends who are in Italy right now. How, because we know that you're in this school of formation in a spiritual formation and unity. So, from a point of view of unity, how do you feel when you see a person that's not at peace?
Yeah. So when there is no peace, we know that there is no unity because when there's unity among us, there's gonna be peace. So when we see someone who's not in peace, we want to build this relationship, this unity between us. So how do we do that? We do it through loving. So not just love for the sake of loving, but you really love concretely. So concretely that the other person would also love you back. So there's gonna be a reciprocity of love between you. So I mean, in our period now during this quarantine, it's really hard to build unity among us. But we think that it's also an opportunity for us to go out of our comfort zone to love and to build unity, especially in times of suffering. So actually, we have an experience in our work because we're making masks for the pandemic. And there was this one day that we weren't able to meet the quota, and the bosses made us stay for a couple of minutes just to make a point that we should not keep on talking and just work, work, work. And for us, it's really a bad experience because we were supposed to go home, but they made us stay. So the next day, we talked among our group and we shared how we feel and how can we love the bosses despite the sufferings, despite the differences and ideas. So after our work, we talked with them and not to show that they're wrong and we're right, but to really to build the unity between us. So we said that it's really the way that you did it. It's really bad. And then they said that no, we really want to do this for the afternoon shift, so they would have no problems in meeting the quota for the day. So everyone was able to share their feelings, and then eventually after that we reconciled with each other, and then actually after that point we were able to find a way to make more masks faster. So eventually the impossible quota that they initially gave us, we exceeded it, and it was really a beautiful experience for us in practicing building unity and peace among us.
Yes, that's definitely beautiful. That's definitely amazing to hear. And, glad you guys are making your quota now. And, thank you, Wilbert. So you talked about going out of your comfort zone, something that's essential for, creating peace, creating this action of peace. So for you, Liz, it is evident that in the US that formerly incarcerated citizens are at a disadvantage when they try to reintegrate into society, looking for jobs, and then getting themselves back on your feet. So for you and your project, when did you realize that this problem was worth thinking about, and specifically why women?
It was one of those experiences that it kind of shows up in your backyard. I was working with a group of volunteers that had already dedicated time and a big part of their lives into volunteering at the women's prison here in Indianapolis. And so I was able to learn a lot from them on their firsthand experience, what was going on. And through that, jumped into a lot of research and to look into for the root causes of what was going on systemically here in the U.S. Um, with women and the criminal justice system. So I think that was pretty special to be able to interact and gain a lot of the information about how this system was affecting those individuals directly, as opposed to uh, just reading about it, which I did a lot of. But it was very important that I also got to hear directly from these women.
Yeah, so you found out, like, you were seeing at this problem that it was a reality, and in order to identify any social problem, like, you really need to know facts. You really need to analyze what's going on. You can just be like, I don't like that, and try to change it by yourself. Like, you really need to see how many people are being affected and so on, right? And for instance, this is for our friends of the Noche Buena project. An estimated 16.6% of Filipinos used to live below the poverty line in 2018, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. So we know that this project was a result of a typhoon in 2009. And from then on, you have all been working on several social activities to help many, especially those with lower sources of income during the holiday season. So, how did you get to identify this marginalized group of people should be the focus for your project? Now, how did you move on from acting after a crisis, like a natural disaster, to helping those people from low income resources?
Oh, okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Pao. I'm from Manila in the Philippines, and I want to say hi to everybody here and everybody who is listening. I think when we talk about peace, a big part of it is division, right? When there's division, there's a big need for peace. And I think something that is prevalent in our part of the world, also in other cultures and and in other countries, would be economic social division. And I think like what you've said about the government is saying that about 16.6% of the population lives below the poverty line. I want to emphasize that the way they define it is about 16.6% are earning maybe about $1 a day or maybe a euro a day, right? But about maybe about 30% would be considering themselves poor, right? um Sometimes it's not really the even the number that they put out there, but really how people consider themselves as poor, right? And I think during that time in 2009, it was about October or November, there was a big typhoon that hit the country, especially the capital of the country. And it was just evident, I think, as we were a group of youth. We called ourselves Youth for United World, and we were thinking about, what can we do. I mean, there's a lot of people that lost their homes. The capital is already predominantly poor, about 38%, and then people are lost their homes. And So the first things we did was that to call up our friends and to make sure everybody was okay, and then at the same time think about stuff that we can do. And so we started getting volunteers in, trying to get some resources. and then trying at the first, I think the first instance was just feeding people, because that was the first thing that they needed was food. No, after that it was dressing people up, and there's so many good experiences, or maybe anecdotes that we can say. Like for example, when we're getting people to donate stuff, we tend to forget things that they still need, like underwear, stuff like that, right? So we started a drive for people to also give underwear. Usually we just give our shirts and stuff like that, but during that time, I remember it was funny because there was just no underwear also for people to wear, and so we started there. And then we started thinking about, we gave them everything already. What else can we give? And it was a very depressing time in Metro Manila, and we started saying, hey, why don't we just sing to them and give them a free concert? And so we did. The youth got together. We sang to a community just to put their hopes up. At a certain point, it was going to be Christmas, and I think, like how Noe was saying it, Noche Buena also means Christmas, right? That feast that you do during Christmas. And we were thinking about these people that had nothing, and so how can they even celebrate Christmas? And that's when really we coined already the name, the Noche Buena Project, which was about getting some good some food, some special food for a family. And we started raising funds and concentrating our efforts towards that. But again, given also the different situations, like the one that we have right now in the quarantine, we again regrouped and said, you know what, we can't also stop at not doing anything. And so we need to this is the call of the times, and just like how we did so many years ago, we need to do something. And so we rerouted our efforts and started raising funds to deliver protective equipment to frontliners, and food for communities. A lot of the people, because of the lockdown, it's a little
Mhm.
bit strict here in the Philippines. They're not allowed to go to work, and so a lot of them are daily wage earners, and because of that, there's really no food for them. And so we started also raising funds to buy food and distribute food all over the Philippines.
And also to go back to how we uh, pick the people to help in the project. I remember for the Noche Buena project, it started in a small community, and it's just we were helping them, and then we realized what there's other communities around the Philippines that has the same situation. So it started from that small community in the capital, Manila, and then we just tried to go like take the next step. Where else can we go? And it just grew from Manila to even the south of the Philippines, and that's how it basically expanded.
Yeah, and as somebody who comes from a Filipino background, I'm half Filipino. This really hits close to my heart. And it's important to not just look at numbers, but to really what's in front of you, and also on the grander scale that you were talking about. And then now you guys are using your platform to provide goods for the lockdown. So now, Liz, we want to go back to you and your project. So once you figured out, that you wanted to work with formerly incarcerated women, what was your impression of the situation of life after prison in that moment where you figured out, okay, maybe I want to do something with them? And then, how has that changed in regards to this current pandemic?
Um, so one thing that we really, really made a point to build was community, um, because the women coming back to our communities, they've spent a lot of time away, and so they need a lot of the resources that we have access to on a daily basis, um, but might not necessarily be able to ask for, just because they don't have that pipeline. So one thing we'd like to create and build is a lot of trust between us, um, so that we know how and when we can help each other. Um, and I think that also goes, we've kind of, in ways, what we've been building at Project Leah and that community and that trust, we're seeing now during this pandemic, and a very community level, larger grand scale level of people asking for things and exchanging their needs and resources with each other, which in ways has made it easier for everybody to access these resources, regardless of your background, regardless of your criminal history. There's kind of this idea of no questions asked in getting food and getting help with housing. And so that's a good thing. And so what will be really important is seeing if we can maintain that level of access for when this is over and when this passes, and that we don't regress back into othering each other and then therefore picking who gets what resources and when.
Yeah, and a bit something interesting, and I think that maybe this is what another thing that Chris wanted to mean with this question is like, what was has your have you always seen the incarcerated women as people who need help, or has it changed before you started your project till today, or how do you feel about these people?
No, they're people and they have a ton of talents. I mean, you just don't know somebody's story and where what they've been through, what they know and what they have to offer as well. So we really much see each other full of talents, and look to find those strengths and share them with each other. So not just people in need, but also people that have things to share with the rest of the community in ways that are sometimes misunderstood, or not looked for. Um, so, for example, a small story is one of my employees actually, she was able to go to the food pantry to pick up a box of food during this time and actually picked me up a box to share with me. Um, just thinking like, okay, this is time. I'm, as someone who's working heavily on this project, also need some resources to help me through this. And so thinking of each other and growing that reciprocity and trust.
Yeah, that because in many societies, communities, like these people get marginalized and or segregated by the communities instead of being helped. When jails and prison has been there for many decades or even centuries, but there's another thing that isn't new, has always been there, and they get segregated as well. Talking about migration, because this is a question for Rahul, because most often migrations are also at a disadvantage in finding work and food amongst other sufferings. So you, Rahul, like living in India, how has this problem affected you throughout your life?
Thanks, Noe. Um, so where I stay is in very underprivileged area, where we have a lot of migrants. More than 50% of migrants from different parts of the city, from the tier 2 and tier 3 city, who would like to come here and work. Um, During this pandemic, uh, I it I realize personally that I have so many other migrants here who are staying with me, and it was a big challenge for them because these guys are daily wage workers, and they work for most of the construction industry, or they work for a tailoring industry. And due to no wage, no food, no supply, and everything shut off, it just created a panic for them about what's next for them, and to help out. So when the lockdown happened, it became extremely difficult because these guys were not allowed to move out or in from a different state to another one. And uh, and I could feel the suffering because my whole neighboring is all about migrants, and talking to them was really like I could see them crying because they have a lot of issues at home. They have farms to take care, they have families, they have small children, and some were supposed to get married or have a baby, and they couldn't see the newborn baby till now, for that matter. So these kind of real experiences really hit me hard about the migrants who are staying here with me.
Yeah, so I mean, it is evident that this is kind of something that you're surrounded with, Rahul, and that you wanted to address. And so we'll get back to that later on. But on the other hand, for the guys out in Italy, this pandemic grew very quickly. This situation presented itself rapidly, and you guys weren't supposed to be making masks at this point of time. And when that happened, when you guys were asked to make masks, what was your reaction? And did you think that it was even possible to do this, even without any prior experience?
Um, for us, I think in the beginning when they straight up told us like, we have the choice to go out and help out with making the masks and things like this. And you have like that fear because we were already told that we have to stay inside. And so you have like this risk factor where like you're going out and you're coming back. You don't know what you've touched, you don't know who you've seen, um, who can be carrying the virus. And it's like that little fear inside, but then it kind of, you kind of overcome it by knowing that you're helping out like a lot by helping the hospitals that are lacking them, the people that are lacking them. So, yeah.
Yeah, because as Kush just mentioned, this came out of nowhere. It's not like it's a problem that's been there the whole time, like we mentioned with migration and incarcerated people. Um, but just as this popped out of nowhere, also for like now going back to Noche Buena project, like you started also out of nowhere with after the typhoon. Now you guys are doing something similar right now, using your platform to provide food and personal protection equipment to people working in hospitals, as well as the usual low income citizens during this pandemic. So I think that in a way it's very different than when it all began, because you mentioned that in the beginning you had lack of underwear, when right now you probably have lack of what, toilet paper probably. So how has this affected you guys and the project?
Um, I think a big part of it, maybe I can tell the question of how it began, right? There was a hospital that tried to ask if we can provide them meals because the hospital staff were too busy even to go out and buy meals for themselves or even to cook for themselves, right? At the same time, everything was closed, right? And so there was a call, there was a request by a friend to a friend, which said maybe you can feed about 200 of our frontliners. And immediately we tried to we set up a just like this, like a Zoom call, and talked about it. Maybe we can pitch in some money to buy 200 food packs for a group of people, for a group of nurses and doctors and security guards and janitors that are working in a hospital. um, and uh, and so this was what we did. It was also during a lockdown already, so everything had to be done remotely and talking to everybody virtually. I think that's how it began, and then we started talking about it. And then we started figuring out, you know what, this thing that's happened to us is something that happens in 100 years. And if there were the times, I remember I had this conversation with my mother, and she was saying that her father, which was my grandfather, was telling her that if there's a hope in my heart, it is that you don't experience war. And I think what happened, or what's happening to us right now, is this is our war, right? And this thing that happened, an invisible enemy, something that stopped the whole world and put it and brought it down to its knees. So if we're gonna be asked right now, we asked ourselves, if we're gonna be asked right now by our grandchildren in the future, what were you guys doing during this war? And we were saying, we wanted to say that, we were fighting, and we were fighting for the frontliners. We were fighting to make the world a better place, to help those that are fighting the virus and all that. And I think this is where we started really small, helping one hospital, and then we started helping a couple of hospitals, became four hospitals, and it became eight hospitals. And then we started with food, and then they started saying that they needed masks, and then they needed KN95 masks, and then they needed face shields, and then they needed personal protective equipment, the whole thing. And so we started doing that, and then we started looking back again at communities. And then, there's a lot of help coming in from government right now, for the hospitals, so let's go there. But at the same time, how about communities? So we started, then going back to helping communities. I think, for me, it's like that. Maybe Joy can also add some stuff.
No, I just was gonna say it how does it affect the project? I think the spirit of the project is still there because Noche Buena project started exactly similar to it. It's like what's in front of us, how can we help, and then it started to just grow. And right now that's what happened. Like, the group of friends were thinking, how can we help these people, and then how can we help more people? Can we help these groups? And then it really grows from a desire to help and make things happen. So as a project, it still has the same concept, same spirit, and it's just a different it is a different call for the times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it presents, the situation presented itself to you guys, and you guys saw the people that are in need. In this case, it's actually the frontliners, the ones that they're fighting this invisible enemy, and so it's important to appreciate them. But also, I think people who also are on the front lines are people like Rahul that are going out to reach different marginalized communities such as the migrant workers who already have been finding it difficult to survive. And so for you, Rahul, what was that spark for you to get up and to start doing something for this group of people where you're putting yourself out there, but at the same time you're providing a new like spark, a new hope for these migrants.
So, thanks, Chris, once again. So, as I mentioned earlier, that I have so many migrants next to me, and they are daily wage earners. So, when I was actually talking to them, and I realized that these guys have no savings or no money left, and also they don't have their basic necessities. So, what I did is right before the lockdown, I bought some essentials for my family, and I bought it in excess. So and then I decided, I think it's time for me to go out and help these guys, because there is no food. And like, if I am hungry, I know what it feels. So like, how do I go out? So that's where I came with my family together, and I told them, like, listen, this is the excess stuff I have, do you mind we do it? And they were like, yes, we go ahead. So I could do this for a week for more than 28 migrants just next to my house. And then after that, it was, oh, I mean, the essentials was over, and even my income was over to provide it. So what I did was, I tried connecting with some local authorities and asked them if they would like to support and help these guys in food. So that's where the distribution took place, and I was right there helping them, helping the people to give them the food to the right people, because what I saw is that the greed of the people was like, we need excess food, which is not true, which is not right. So, and then again explaining them what social distancing means, because the cops here were very strict about social distancing. If the people are not distancing, they stop the food and they tell them to go away. So this is how I tried my best in explaining what social distancing is and to give away the food to the right people.
Yeah, like this is very important. Like not only like that's another way to help, not only giving them things, for example foods and things they need, but also educating them with how to prevent, in this case, the social distancing as you mentioned, and all this other ways to stay safe, because we all need it in this time. And I'm always so grateful to hear all of these stories from people like you who are working day to day to solve different social problems. um, and next question is for our friends in Italy. Why do you think a problem, because, well, a little bit of background, like we need, like, no problem is solved by only one person alone. Or do you think that a person can solve a problem by him or herself? That's the question we want to ask. Or do we really need other people to 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 solve problems?
For us, it's very heavy load to carry by yourself, doing things alone. So we believe that doing things collectively, especially now that we're doing the mask, to make like an average of 5,000 masks every day, it's not possible that I can just do it alone. So we believe here that being together, working together can make a difference. We can make a bigger output. So there's this proverb that one says that if you want to go fast, you go alone. But then if you want to go far, you go together. So building collective experiences also bears a lot of fruit, like a fruit of love, a fruit of building experiences together, getting to know a different person, especially here in a diverse community, that I'm able to know more of her background, of her culture. So it's really like a bigger output that can build.
Yeah, you're right. It's these fruit of these experiences is something really amazing, and that you have not just yourself but a whole team behind you to solve this problem, and a diverse team with different ideas and different things to put on the table. And you know, we all know that the Noche Buena project has a whole team around you guys. So how many people are like involved on this project, in this project approximately? And like you said, like Joy is in California. So how are you guys able to work together through all these different, methods and channels?
I think when we started, uh, it was just really a few of the a friend, just the group of friends, right? We were professionals. Everybody was stuck in their houses, and then we started talking about how we can help. And I remember it was a 10 o'clock Zoom a meeting, right?
Mhm.
And then that's when we started to say, you know what, if we really want to help a lot of people, we would need a lot of resources. And that's when we started tapping, let's tap really the network of the Youth for United World, the network of the Focolare. Let's tap the network of the Noche Buena. I mean, let's activate the Noche Buena project network that we've created. The Noche Buena project is something that has been going on for about 10 years now. So it has those usual people that give for Christmas, right? So we started activating that, and then and that's when people like Joy from the States also tried to contact some friends from the States, in a way also just for the different realities that we have, in a way wherein maybe people from the other countries would have more resources than people from the Philippines and stuff like that, right? And then maybe just to give you an example also, everybody's working inside their houses, and then but at the same time, we need people to go into the hospitals to deliver stuff, right? And there are these people that are also risking their health and their family's health in that way, right? We have messengers that are also helping us there. For example, we have a friend, because he works in the telecom industry, which is considered to be an essential worker in the Philippines. Then he has like a special ID that he can go anywhere without restriction, and he offered to be the one to deliver the stuff, and this way he won't be stopped so much, right? um, so it's really activating all of these people. A lot of it also is, you can see in the Facebook page that we created, are a group of young people who started creating social cards or infographics for free. I mean, everybody volunteering what they can during this time where everybody's at home, and a big part of that contributed also to a community, for example, in Korea, that was able to see some of the content that was seen in the social media pages, and started donating a big part of our funds from Korea, a big part from LA, a big part from Hong Kong. And this really gave us a lot of resources to help also a lot of people. So really, really grateful. With regard to number, it's I can't count it anymore in a way, because there's so many volunteers that are doing and helping in their own way. I think we're even gonna go as far as making a an art auction for artists that would want to paint um, certain pieces and would want to auction them. And a big part of the proceeds will go to the Noche Buena project.
Yeah, it's nice to work always with people who believe and stand for the same things as we do, using resources and networks, as you're mentioning, that are available to you. But to be honest, it's not always like that for some people. It's essential to create awareness about specific problem in order for other people to realize there's this problem. So going back to you, Liz, how did you manage to create awareness and have other people follow this your great initiative? Like, have you faced a conflict due to different points of view working with someone else?
So we do a couple of different things. Some more direct than others. Sometimes we'll host like advocacy nights. So we'll do a film screening that shows documentary that talks directly to the issue that these women are dealing with, and a lot of times giving voice to their experiences, and then meet around and have discussions around that. But then also we do just because of our business model, we have on a more daily basis interactions with the community and in public, and they're very positive interactions where others are sharing their knowledge of the products or their talents, and they made these things and that people like and want to buy, and so they get to share that with the community. So in ways it's this very passive interaction and awareness towards the issue at hand, and I think both help and they serve it in different ways. One more in order to get other people involved and activated, and the other um, just more to give education and to break that barrier um, between feeling like you don't relate to that other person, you have no experiences in common. um, we haven't I haven't experienced any like direct conflict to date. Maybe a bigger there might be a few, but sometimes when you're having conversation, there's a little not necessarily against it, but just kind of blah, like
Mhm.
kind of middle ground, which is okay as well. You're just having those conversations and building those relationships in order to humanize the other person, and share that story.
Yeah, like you said, it basically both ways that you're spreading awareness. It's like a complement to each other. One does something for the other, and also it brings in groups of people, and from all over the place. So now, Rahul, with you, you are working with people with different religious backgrounds, right? Because in India, it's a diverse country, diverse place, and it could be easy to clash between certain beliefs. So how did you overcome that and convince people that your project goes beyond these spiritual beliefs?
Uh, so just before a day when the lockdown was supposed to end, and there was a fake news from one of the news channels saying that the trains have been released and the migrants can go to their respective places. But this wasn't the news, and the lockdown was extended for more 21 days. This created a big protest right outside my house, which gathered more than 3,000 migrant workers, and it became crazy where the news went till the parliament, and it became really difficult where they stopped all the food distribution, people moving out here and there, all the uh, a section where they cannot see more than two or three people together. And in this and then the news spotted a mosque, and they mentioned that it's a planning done by the Muslim community to gather all these people here, which is not right. So in this scenario, what I decided to come up is to gather. So I am the only Catholic staying in my area. Rest I have Muslims and Hindus which are staying there. So to convince these guys to come together, even though after such a conflict and clash, and to start making food every day and to serve a meal, twice a meal to more than 100 migrants every day was a really task for me. But then somehow I don't know, it happened, and that's where I thought of coming together. So in the evening when Muslims pray, so we thought of why not join, and I say my rosary and the Hindu say his own prayer, so that we come together and we have a unity, and the end of the goal is to serve people and not to have our own conflicts because of what the politics is going on.
Yeah, that is right. Like you all have the same goal, but each of you have your different ways. But in the end, you can work together. We need like community, and that's what you're building there, Rahul. So that's really impressive. That's really nice.
Thanks, Noel.
So going back to Liz, you identified a problem. You created awareness with it. Well, at least one or more people to try to solve this problem with your team. And then there's a next step. When you decide when you decided to take action, how long did it take for you to start working for your project after realizing about the problem?
It wasn't very long. It was just a few months after of planning and researching and kind of coming up with the big idea of how it might work to put into practice. But then um, just very much day by day trying to find others that wanted to be part of this and also work towards the same solution. So it happened all pretty fast, and some days I'm like, whoa, how did this all happen?
Mm-hmm.
But always just working every day a little bit forward, making sure that always moving forward, which I think even and that's important. And someone kind of asked this question here in the Q&A of how do you find the strength to keep, because it can be exhausting work. So I think it's very important from day one to try and build that team, build that network and community around you and the cause, so that some days, because we are human and we do get tired as well, to be able to pass that torch and share that responsibility and share the work that we do.
Yeah, I mean that's inspiring. Also that you did it in a time, a matter of months. So it relates to this theme, in time for peace. This was your time. And so, Rahul, this project, you started, kind of only now, it presented itself like this. But do you see yourself like in 10 years, still working for the needs of others? It doesn't have to be specifically what you're doing, but in general, do you see yourself continuing to do this?
Definitely yes, Chris. I just before the lockdown, I was sharing with some of the people here that so Economia Francesco was supposed to take place in the month of March, and I was one of the attendee there. So, but it didn't happen. But I made a promise that after going and attending the Economia Francesco, that I want to come back and leave my corporate job and start working for the people and be at the service. I don't know. I look at this pandemic in a very positive way that it gave me an opportunity to not wait for Economia Francesco, but do it practice right now. And I know definitely that this is what I want to do now, as to serve the people and help the people.
Yeah, that it's happened to me as well. Like wanting to dedicate myself to help others, which because it, I bet you feel amazing helping these people out. Like, doesn't it happen to you as well, Joy or Paulo? Like, how do you guys feel when you help others? But don't just don't just say like you feel good or it's just nice to help others. In a few words, can you tell us through, well, like what goes through Joy's mind during this moment?
Well, first it's when you say when you help people, yeah, you don't say you just feel good. You actually feel tired, right? But
Yeah.
it's different because when you're working, you'd feel tired, and that's it. This one, you're working, but you're tired, but you're also happy because it changes how you, at least for me, how I see things, right? Where it's with this small flame, it grows into a big fire, and it helps me personally, but I think um, it it helps other people too. So uh, that's really how I feel. It's like a small flame that becomes a fire.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
what?
If I may add, if it's okay,
Yeah.
no
Yeah. Go
way.
ahead, man.
Um, I think here in most of the Philippines, we've been in lockdown for more than 50 days already, I think, right? And a big part of that comes, I think, and this is, I think, common with everybody here in this room, would be different kinds of feelings. I think we've just went through some roller coaster of emotions, right? Wherein at first you feel anxious, sometimes your throat is a little bit itchy, and you're so paranoid. Some of us live with our parents, and so we're also a little bit more paranoid that we might be carriers for them. At the same time, for those that are working, there's this eternal question also in our minds: will we have our works afterwards? Will our businesses flourish? So there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of and then at the same time there's still a lot of work. Like what Joy said, it's not
Mhm.
like work stopped. It's just we went from the office to the house and we're working. But at the same time, with all these kinds of anxieties, especially when you open up the TV and watch the news, and there's so many crazy news going from all over the world. And I think a big part of it is a lot of it is thinking about you, right? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? And I think the work that the Noche Buena project was able to do by helping the frontliners and the families and the communities is a lot about them, right? A lot about people that are outside who I am and outside my just my family. And I think in that way, it becomes really also a great respite, or a feeling of not just happiness, but a feeling of not being lonely, and being able to share what you have with everybody else. um, and I think it's a different kind of happiness. It's not a selfish happiness, and then it takes away really that fear of or that anxiety, because you then turn it to like, okay, let's just help the other people. Let's help those that need more, and then you start counting also the blessings that you have, and then you
That's
start
true. The
helping.
blessings. That's
Yeah,
true.
the
The
blessings
blessings
that you
that
have,
you have. And
and
so I
then
think that's also
yeah, it's
important
great.
for like in the piano, in with the youth of Focolare over there in Italy, that these blessings is something that they've received during their projects. And what is one result that you guys have seen out there that satisfied you the most? And then finally, another person can answer in Italy. What else can you do for others to continue in terms of doing actions of peace in society, and also could more or less sum up what we've been talking about through this?
Well, this result what satisfied me the most was the fact that everyone in the factory where we're making the mask is there to make the mask. That's like how can I say? Um, uh, that we're there even if we're tired, even if we don't have the feeling to make the mask. Uh, we are ready to give our time to make the masks.
And then for the second question again, what else can you guys tell others about doing concrete actions of peace, in your society?
So we believe that we can be living examples of spreading love and treating others justly. So that way, by our examples, others can also live that way, and we can create peace together in society. And also just creating concrete actions in our environment. So that way we create a ripple effect and create peace again. And also we can start by just creating peace in our family. And then that way, being peaceful in our family will show others that in society it's also possible.
Yeah, and I think that could be explained, and brought out to everybody. It could be applied to everybody. So unfortunately, our time is coming to an end, and I kind of hate to put this end to an amazing, wonderful discussion. I'm sorry, Paulo, for kind of cutting you off right there, but we are on a time crunch. But
it's all good. It's all good.
No problem. So I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today, all of you panelists. And we will have like links and anecdotes from your projects on social media, on our social media, and also to the United World Project social media, so others can connect with y'all.
Yeah, and we also want to thank our awesome translators who have been generous with their time and knowledge to spread this message of a united world in different languages. We also want to thank United World Project, obviously, for setting up this webinar and providing us more ways in which we can build a more united world.
And lastly, we want to thank you guys, the participants and everyone else watching or listening, for taking part in this special event. This was a live episode that had many moving parts, and we really couldn't have done it without the support from you guys, the support from the panelists, and also the support of the United World Project. So stay tuned on our social media accounts at tgt.podcast for more announcements on new episodes, and also to further engage with these wonderful panelists that we've had today. And you got anything else to add, Noe?
No, maybe just stay tuned, because we'll be having more live episodes. This was, as we mentioned before, this is the first time we do this, so I think we can pull out some more in the future.
Yep.
And any of the panelists, you guys want to add anything real quick? Want to shout out anybody?
Be safe, everybody. Stay at home.
There is hope. This is a good example of it.
Cool. Rajo. All right, so this is it. Thank you guys. Thank you, Conleth, for running the chats and the polls. Really appreciate it. And I won't be cutting my hair anytime soon, just to let you guys know. But I will be definitely considering it once we are able to go get a haircut. But other than that,
I just want to thank the panelists and the backend team who were like right there up for 6 hours, 8 hours during the whole program, everything. Thank you very much. It was really excited to listen and to hear from each one of y'all.
No, thank you.
Raul, I want to thank you too for everything that you're doing there in India, and Liz for everything that you're doing there in the US.
Thank you, and good luck
Thank
to
you.
all your projects and to keep working every day.
All right. Peace, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.